here's your host, Alex Garrett.
It's a Friday, which means postseason's coming up. It means a bit of a sports spotlight recap with Lou Terminello, who, can I say it? You had a birthday this week, Lou. Happy belated.
Thank you, Alex. Most appreciated and good to be with you as always.
You had a birthday the day John Sterling retired. I mean, April 15th is becoming a thing. I mean, your birthday, John Sterling, my dad's passed. It's all happened on one day. April 15th. That's tax day above all, right?
It's tax day. Some other things that throughout history that happened on April 15th. Some of them infamous. Abraham Lincoln died at 7:22 on April 15th. The Titanic went under at 2:30 on April 15th, 2:30 a.m. Of course, 11 years ago, the tragedy at the Boston Marathon was on April 15th. Some infamous things. So,
Lou, you're the bright spot then of April 15th. How about that?
That's
you are the
right.
bright spot.
That is right.
Well, there's a lot of bright spots to look forward to because the Garden's going to be lit up again with Rangers and Knicks playoffs. And, can you take me through how it is the Knicks are going to face the Sixers? The play-in situation confused me a little bit because even if someone lost, they were just ranked lower, not out of the play. How did that work this week?
Okay, so a couple of years ago, as the NBA is trying to beef up the regular season, have more interest in the regular season, and really the regular seasons the last couple of years have been terrible. And they're trying to, again, that's why they had that in-season tournament. And now what they did was they expanded the potential of two teams coming in. Instead of just cutting it off at 8, they were giving the 9th and 10th team a chance. So basically it works as follows. If you finish 7th and 8th during the regular season in the conference, you have 2 chances to win one game. If you win one game out of those 2 chances, you advance to the playoffs. If you win the first game, if you win the 7 versus 8 seed, which is the first game, you automatically advance to the playoffs. You don't have to play the second game, like what happened with the Sixers. The Sixers beating Miami the other night. They automatically became the 7th seed. If they had lost, even though they were the 7th seed during the regular season, and Miami had won, and they were the 8th seed, they would have been the 7th seed. They would have played the Knicks. But it went according to form. The Sixers won at home. But Miami now has, even though they lost, they have a chance to win against the Bulls tonight at 7 o'clock. If Miami wins, they will be playing the Boston Celtics. If the Bulls win, they'll be playing the Boston Celtics.
So it's like a wide net to get into the postseason, right? Because they're considering the play in a postseason and that. But the Warriors were out on night 1 just because they lost night 1. Is that how that happened?
The Warriors and Sacramento. The Warriors were 8. Sacramento was 7. And the Warriors were 10 and Sacramento was 9. And by losing, you don't get a second chance at 9-10 because you have to win 2 games if you're in that 9-10 slot. So Sacramento won against Golden State the other night. And tonight they'll be playing at New Orleans. And if Sacramento loses, they're out. New Orleans, which was in the top 8, if they win their one game, they lost the other night at home to the Lakers, they become the 8th seed. Just a couple of more TV eyeballs, a little more interest for the fans. I don't think it's great, but I know they were talking about the NHL doing it, and Gary Bettman has resisted.
The whole thing about the NBA in-season tournament is the caveat's still not there to win. I get that it's a lot of money, but if they guarantee a postseason spot, would that either cause outrage or would it make sense if they guarantee that once a team wins the whole?
You can't do that in December. You just can't. The NBA regular season is problematic as it is. It's really not interesting the last couple of years. And it's because guys don't play every game. I'm going to give you an example. Going into their game on Monday night, the Islanders had played 80 games. Nine of the key Islanders, 4 of them played 79 out of the 80 games, and 5 others played all 80 games. You never see that in the NBA. And the NHL is a much more physical league, much more tougher league than the modern NBA. And I think we talked about it last week, where the Stan Van Gundy said that the college game is more physical than the modern NBA game. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I was in the league for 28 years. I wouldn't buy a ticket to a regular season game. I wouldn't. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know how hard they're going to play. I'm a little bit down, as you know, on the NBA. Maybe because I was there during the golden years of when the league was at its peak. But
well, let me ask you about that, because obviously that there was rumors that the Cavaliers sat their big players and stars in the fourth quarter last week for a lower playoff seed. I mean, is that where the league has gone to, that they're letting these guys just sit, an entire quarter, Lou? That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I saw that, and I'm telling you, it's not good for the league. But what they did was, I mean, they had the home court advantage already locked in. But again, so they play the Magic. They have the home court advantage in the first round. They beat the Magic, and I think they play the Celtics Miami winner or Chicago winner, whoever wins tonight's game. And I'm telling you, with Jimmy Butler out for a month, Miami is going to go away quickly. As great a coach as Eric Spoelstra is, and as great a culture as he'd like to say they have, they're not going to be long for the playoff run this year. They might win tonight at home against Chicago, but Boston has easy pickings in the first round.
All right, speaking of big injuries, how are the Knicks able to secure a second seed, which personally, I don't remember that happening for a while in Knicks franchise history here. So this is a big deal. But they did it without Julius Randle, one of their stalwarts, and they did it with a very shakily, healthy, and unhealthy Obi. I mean, he's in now and then, but is it Randle? Is he the reason why they got the second seed? He's got a supporting cast around him too, doesn't he?
Well, again, you never want a guy injured, but in this case, maybe that was addition by subtraction. Obviously, it's all been Jalen Brunson. He's the key Nick. He's the guy who, if I had an MVP vote, I would vote for Nikola Jokic first. He's the most valuable player in the league by far. He should be winning his 4th straight MVP. He got screwed last year. There was no way Embiid should have won it. But Jalen Brunson is the second most valuable player in the NBA, and he's definitely the most valuable player in the Eastern Conference. So if the Knicks had lost him, they would have been done. They might be more effective with the ball movement without Randle. Yes, Randle kind of adapted to the Knicks system this year, and they do need him. So I'm not trying to poo-poo and say they don't need him, but they can beat Philadelphia. The Knicks have better chemistry than Philadelphia. Yes, Philadelphia has Embiid, and they have Maxey, and they have Tobias Harris, but they've been a jumbled mess all year. Yes, losing Embiid for those 4 to 6 weeks where you can't make up a guy like Embiid. The pressure's on the Sixers. We heard for years about the process. Well, what have the Sixers done in postseason? Nothing. The pressure is on the Sixers in the series. The Knicks, in my opinion, should get through this series. The Knicks play hard. I think they're ready. If the Knicks, by some chance, lose this series, and it's a pick'em series, I wouldn't say that the season's been a failure. I would say it's just a disappointing first-round loss. But the pressure is on the Sixers, in my opinion. I think.
Well, yeah, because the whole tell of the tale is during the Doc River years, oh, they can't get past this round or this round or that round. I mean, and of course, you have Joel Embiid, and that's been a reason why there's so much pressure. How are you losing with Embiid, right? That's been a big storyline in Philly.
Plus the fact that they tanked it for a couple of years to draft, in the top three every year. So the pressure's on Philadelphia. The Philadelphia media will not be kind to them. Like I said, I don't think if the Knicks lose this series, and again, like I said, in my opinion, it's 50-50. It'll be a disappointment for Knicks people, for Knicks fans, but it won't be a failure. Not this year. Maybe next year if the Knicks are back to where they were this year. Who knows?
Thibs too. Thibs is a coach who, can only get a team so far in the playoffs. And
there's a little pressure on Thibs. He knows that. Everybody, Alex. These people say they don't listen to the noise. They listen to most of the noise. He knows what's going on. He knows when he was at Minnesota and they were pretty good teams. He couldn't get them to that next level for whatever reason. And we'll see. We'll see.
Is he making you a proud Italian right now? The way he's racking up the
well, I knew he was good, and I knew he would be a contributing NBA player. But and he was on 4 teams in 4 years, just like his college championship teammate Hart. But and he was on 4 teams in 5 years. So the Knicks, you gotta give them credit. Either these guys just matured in their game, both on and off the court, or it's they just got lucky with them. But with all these complementary players the Knicks have, McBride and Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, they've all formed a team that's very good, led by a guy that nobody knew was going to be this good in Jalen Brunson. I would put Jalen Brunson, I wouldn't say he's a superstar. I'd put him halfway between star and superstar. But the one thing he is difference maker. And that's very, very important for any sports team. So this will be an interesting series, like I said, toss up. But I think the pressure's on the Sixers.
What about the Celtics? They're sitting up there at 1 once again, and obviously like a automatic 1 for them. Feels like them and the Bruins always get that top seed, except for this year when the Rangers get the President's Trophy. But for the most part, they always sit up there at the 1. Isn't there pressure on Boston also? I mean, we're talking about the Knicks and Sixers, but for the Celtics to keep that 1 and to be strong, are they a lock to get through to the conference and beyond, or are they not a lock this year?
They're on paper, in the natural, the Celtics should breeze through and get to the final. I mean, okay, last year they lost to the Heat, but they added Porzingis. They had added Holiday. They're deep. The coach is now gone through 1 long-term playoff series. So Tatum has gone through it. Jaylen Brown's gone through it. The road is paved for the Celtics to get to the finals. And out of all, there's only one team in the East besides Philadelphia, because of the Philadelphia past, that has pressure on them, and they have the most pressure on them, and that's the Boston Celtics. Anything short of getting to the finals is a massive, massive disappointment. Like I said,
let's talk about Milwaukee staying in the East, because I think Milwaukee and Minnesota are the 2 teams that have a lot of pressure. And of course, the Nuggets, because they're trying to repeat and whatnot. But I look at the Bucks and I say, okay, Doc Rivers, here he is again in the postseason. He's got Giannis, but he's also inherited sort of this. I would say, it seemed like what's the word I'm looking for, Lou?
The Bucks are dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional, yes. They look like a dysfunctional family right now.
And Giannis is not going to be around for the first couple of games of at least of game 1 against a very up-and-coming Indiana team. Indiana could win that series. Milwaukee has been really inconsistent all year. I mean, 3 weeks ago, they lost consecutive, 2.5 weeks ago, They lost consecutive games when they're trying to secure a seed. They lost to the Grizzlies, who are pathetic, to the Raptors, who are pathetic, and to the Wizards, who are pathetic. So I don't know where Milwaukee's going, but there's more pressure on Doc Rivers than the Bucks franchise. Milwaukee's won that championship. They won that championship, even though I think if, and I've said this before, if Kyrie and Harden didn't get hurt when the Nets were up 2-0,
and Durant's foot was behind the line, we could all say that too.
Right. But. So again, but that's what happens in sports. So the path in the NBA Eastern Conference is wide open for the Celtics. They shouldn't be picked off. If somebody gets hurt, that's a different story. But going in to the playoffs that begin tomorrow and over the weekend, they should not. They should not have any speed bumps getting to the NBA final.
All right, let's talk about the West now, because I mentioned the Nuggets, but I also think the Timberwolves had one of the best years in the franchise history. I mean, remember how it used to be really lowly to be on the Timberwolves. Now they're with KAT and that whole record-setting 60-point plus. But I'm looking at it as, all right, well, now that they've secured that top seed, I mean, there is pressure on Minnesota that no one's talking about, right?
Well, they're going to be playing Phoenix in the first round. The pressure in this series is on Phoenix because of the trade they made with the Nets at the trade deadline for Durant. And Durant, Devin Booker, and they got Bradley Beal. They can't lose this series. Now, the best player on the court is still Durant, even at his age of 35. But Anthony Edwards is probably the best player on the Minnesota Timberwolves. We think of Karl Anthony Towns, but it's probably Anthony Edwards. The Minnesota Timberwolves do something that a lot of NBA teams don't do during the regular season anymore. They play strong defense, and that could be the difference in this series. But pressure's on Phoenix. The pressure's on Phoenix. I mean, Oklahoma City is going to play the winner of the play-in game tonight. It should be Sacramento. Williamson is not playing for New Orleans, even though New Orleans is at home. They might be able to squeak it out, but Oklahoma City has all that young talent, and they should win that next series against either Sacramento or New Orleans. Of course, there's a couple of interesting matchups. Really, in the West, all the matchups seem to be interesting. You got number 2 Denver, the defending champion, with the best player in the league by far, Nikola Jokic. They don't have the depth that they had last year. They're losing Jeff Green, who was a great off the Nets bench a couple of years ago. Bruce Brown, who was great off the Nets bench. They lost those guys, so they're not as deep as they were. And they're going to be playing the Lakers. The Lakers have played very well down the stretch. They have LeBron. They have Anthony Davis. D'Angelo Russell is inconsistent in his game, but the other night he was terrific. If he's on that Laker Denver series, Denver should win, but
this is a big thing with LeBron, right? So everybody's like, is he going to retire?
It's a big thing with LeBron.
Is he going to retire this year? Is he not going to retire? And of course,
right.
I think the NBA loves this. LeBron versus Nikola Jokic, the first round. That's a good way to start the playoffs. And you know, if I'm not mistaken, Lou, the only one he's won with the Lakers is in a bubble series. So this is almost like the Dodgers, where we don't see, we haven't seen him win
right. Well,
a 42-game season yet.
Unlike the Dodgers, only played 60 games. They played 72 games, in that bubble series. The bubble series to me is legitimate. The bubble championship. The Dodgers championship, I don't think is legitimate. I mean, they basically played basically a full NBA season. They actually had regular season games in the bubble before the playoffs started. So the Lakers, LeBron has won a legitimate championship. It was just played in front of nobody because of the COVID-19 situation. But I'm not saying that the Lakers are going to beat Denver, but this is a very interesting series. It's a reason why the game is on ABC tomorrow night and not ESPN. They want as many eyeballs to look at these two teams as possible.
Lou, we got to talk about momentum because I always feel like, especially in the NFL and the playoffs, momentum matters. I mean, the wild card teams that win that first week are probably going to do a little more because they always seem to have the momentum hanging the next week against a first round bye team. But in the NBA and NHL, is momentum as important, or is this like a whole new series type of thing? I mean, every postseason is that, but I also feel like there's no momentum. So let's say the playing teams, do they have momentum going into these series because they've just played a couple nights ago?
Well, look at Miami. They were a playing team last year, and they got to the NBA Finals. The thing about the NBA, the key thing, even now, the game is different than what it used to be, but it's still a game of matchups. So you can go into that next series with momentum, and you can get picked off. I mean, I'll go back to my personal experience when I was with the Nets, and we got to the finals in the first time. Yeah, we had momentum. We had great momentum after we won games 3, 4, 5, and 6 against the Celtics after we were down 2-1. But then we ran into Shaq, and it's a game of matchups. We could not match up with Shaq. If the Lakers had, let's say, another center that wasn't the behemoth that Shaq was, yeah, they still had Kobe, but you could match up with Kobe. We couldn't match up with Shaq. He was too powerful. He was in the height of his physical abilities, and we couldn't handle Shaq. So momentum, yeah, it depends on the sport. It depends on the matchup.
All right. Well, the NHL, I want to just put a bow on the NHL now because it's the Capitals. And, of course, the Rangers and the Capitals have had a playoff history before. We know that. We've seen that. And Obi, has he lost his step, do you feel? I guess I feel like he didn't get the goal total maybe he was looking for heading into the season. Is that about right?
Well, he had 32 goals, and for most players, that's considered terrific. He had 32 goals. He's going to break the record either next year or the year after of 894 held by Gretzky, once thought unbreakable, and he's going to break it. He had a very good second half of the year after a very, very docile first half of the year. I think still he's close to the top of his game, but this is a series where the Rangers should win this fairly easily. They're better in every way than the Capitals. Their power play and their penalty kill are both in the top 3-4 of the league. You don't want to take a penalty against the Rangers. Yeah, the Rangers 5-on-5 are a middle of the pack team, and that's their weakness. But Washington is a middle of the pack 5-on-5 team. The Rangers have the best goaltender in Shesterkin. Ryan Lindgren's brother, Charlie Lindgren, is going to be in nets for
and they're not talking to each other the whole series. I heard about that. So yeah. We'll see what that's about. You know, the thing about Shesterkin, though, is he should have, and I think he has, finally welcomed the mentorship of Jonathan Quick. Maybe he was a little intimidated by Quick's success early on the season, but I feel like the two mesh really well. And having Jonathan Quick on that bench, having been a Stanley Cup champion against the Rangers 10 years ago, that's a boost for the Rangers as far as I'm concerned.
Well, having two goaltenders in the playoffs, especially if you're going to play a grinding 2 months to win the Stanley Cup, you're going to probably need a Jonathan Quick in there sometime over the next 2 months. Again, if by some chance the Rangers get picked off, which would be a monumental upset, and as I said before, anything short of the Rangers winning the Eastern Conference Championship is a failure. Unlike the Knicks, where it would be just disappointing if they lose, it would be a colossal failure if the Rangers don't win the Eastern Championship.
I think of the Capitals, I think of bad boy Tom Wilson, and I think of, oh my God, imagine Rempe versus Wilson. Everybody would love to see that, right? The kid going up against Wilson, who's been a thorn and a beat down against the Rangers over the years. I mean, for God's sakes, they brawled like the Rangers and Devils did right in the beginning of that game a few years ago. It looked like a boxing match at the Garden. But
well, Tom Wilson's a dirty player in my opinion. He's done dirty things,
and he's still welcome back every year. I don't understand it. But my main question here is, Lou, when you teach, Laviolette's got to impart in the kid, hey, you need more discipline. It's the playoffs. Not that Rempe doesn't know that, but maybe he needs that little word of advice.
You might see Rempe in the lineup tomorrow, or by some chance. I would be surprised if he's not in the lineup for game one. But I would not expect to see him a lot in these Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, they're not going to take a roster spot of a skilled player and put Rempe in. They're just not. Tomorrow, I think, Sunday. I know it's Sunday. I think he'll be in for game one just because of what you said. We remember how Wilson ran roughshod against the Rangers and really ragdolled Panarin, which was just disgraceful, and which led to the firing of the general manager, the firing of the president. They also were physically beat up by the Islanders that year. So that combined with Wilson, the Rangers started making their changes to their operations management team.
Right.
So I think you'll see Rempe on Sunday. The thing about Tom Wilson is, for all his over the line dirtiness, he's an effective hockey player. Rempe hasn't shown that. He's just shown that he's, the guy's played 17 games and he's had 5 fights. He's had a 4-game suspension in 17 games. But I think you'll see him on Sunday.
All right, and one other guy I'm thinking of that's not been on the radar, which is always a fun thing to me, is these under the radar guys performing, is Cooley, because I've been watching some of these Ranger games, and Cooley has these clutch goals. So imagine that line. He's going to play a role alongside the Panarins, and of course the Zibanejads and the Rempes and the Kreiders. I mean, Chris Kreider. This to me feels like Cooley's going to be a factor, and B, Kreider, this is his series. This is his playoffs. I think that this is the moment he wants to win the cup. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, they all want to win a cup, but the thing about Kreider is the guy scored 18 or 19 power play goals this year, and the Rangers' power play is so devastating. So teams want to stay out of the box. They can't take any unnecessary penalties against the Rangers. Kreider in front of the net is one of the best tipping guys in the league. He's a big, strong guy. He's fast for his size. He's a complete hockey player. But the guy who has pressure on him, and the Rangers have pressure on him as a team after blowing a 2-0 lead against a young Devils team last year, a young talented Devils team, but they came up small. And as great a season as Panarin had, now he has to do it in the playoffs because he was nowhere in that first round loss last year. So, like I said, I think the Rangers, this is going to be an easy series for them. They'll play, I believe they play the Carolina Islanders winner. Yeah, everybody wants to see a Ranger Islander playoff series. Well, as much as I like my Islanders, they're not getting by the Carolina. Not getting by the Carolina Hurricanes.
That would be an upset. That's David and Goliath to me.
The Islanders have a couple of things that add up to playoff failure. 5-on-5, they're decent, but their penalty kill is near historically poor levels, and their power play is inconsistent. They do have, in this series, they have the advantage in goal, but Carolina is offensively deep. And when they got Jake Gensel to add to that already deep offensively team, that just made them tougher. They got a great defensive core. Their goaltending is shaky, but I think you're going to see Carolina and the Rangers in the second round. So that would be fantastic.
It will. And one other thing happening this weekend, which we got to cover, is a week after Doc Gooden's numbers retired by the Mets, another New York sports icon is announcing his retirement tomorrow from the booth. John Sterling. I mean, what a week it's been honoring him. And to me, I love his calls, but when it came to play-by-play, he was losing his step, and I'm not afraid to say that on this podcast.
Well, John Sterling has always been unique. I mean, I first heard John Sterling back in 1972 when he came to New York from Baltimore. Even though he was New York City born and raised, he was the play-by-play man for the then Baltimore Bullets, now the Washington Wizards, for a 71-72 season. Then he got the call to New York, and he did a sports show in an Alex. There were no sports talk shows in New York in 1972. None. So he came to WMCA, our beloved WMCA, and he did a sports talk show every day, Monday to Friday. And then eventually when WMCA got the broadcast rights to the then ABA New York Nets and the expansion New York Islanders, he did the Islander game for three seasons. He was the broadcast voice for Islander hockey on WMCA, and he did Nets. When the Nets came to New Jersey from Nassau, and Roy Bowe sold them to Joe Taub and the other New Jersey owners, he had a choice to either stay with the Islanders or come to the Nets, and he stayed, and he came to the Nets. Now, in hindsight, by doing that, he missed at least a couple of Stanley Cup championship years for the Islanders, and he's talked about that. But Kevin Lockery, he was a dear friend of his. Kevin Lockery was the longtime coach of the Nets, an excellent coach, and I guess maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But then after a while, he went down to Atlanta. It was the Hawks, did TV on TBS for the Hawks. He was part of the TBS broadcast team. And you got to remember, in those days, TBS went coast to coast. It was a superstation. So he got a lot of notoriety, which led to him becoming the Yankee radio announcer in 1989. And he was there for basically every game up until a couple of weeks ago. He had over 3,000 games in a row. He's done over 5,600 Yankee games, regular season and postseason. He called all those World Series games. I do think, like you said, he lost a step. But again, he's going to be 86 years old on the 4th of July. I heard him the other day. He was he was on some talk show. His voice is strong. His memory is strong. Do I think he was the best fundamental play-by-play announcer? I don't. And he did a couple of games for the Nets when I was there as a fill-in for Ian. And he is unique. He's a little weird, but he did love the game of baseball, and he was, as they say in baseball, more than any other sport, he was a character of the game. Rizzuto was a character of the game. Carey was a character of the game. So, and he's beloved in Chicago. So there's been a lot of announcers, especially in baseball, like that. The relationship, the romance between baseball and their radio announcer, more so than even TV announcer, is different than just about any other sport. And I do believe, Alex, that John Sterling will get the call for the Hall of Fame in the next year or two.
Without a doubt, he is a staple, and he will be missed on the radio. Now, what are you thinking? I mean, I guess Brendan Burke was maybe doing a sign-off in John Sterling style, causing, Jim McDonald would be like, Butch Goring rather to say, where are you going next? I mean, he's not. Who's going to take over? Is there going to be a permanent, you think, or will they rotate, or Justin Shackle? Who's the guy?
Well, I assume, I don't know. I don't think they're going to announce the permanent guy this year. I don't think WFAN is going to announce the permanent guy this year. Yes, WFAN has first dibs on the announcer, but the Yankees have to approve. And I was watching the game on Monday night on the last Islander goal, which put them up 4-1. John had a signature call on the radio when he did Islander hockey. Goal, Islanders goal, Islanders goal. And on the fourth goal, Burke did that. Right away, I knew why he did it. A couple of seconds later, he said that was out of his respect for John Sterling, who announced his retirement on earlier that day. And then Butch Goring says, I hope we're not going to lose you. And Thomas Hickey, who's between the glass, said the same thing. And do you know something we don't know? Now, Burke has been rumored for being a candidate for the job. He did games last year after the hockey season was over for the Yankees when John, took those West Coast trips off. Now we'll see, but I'm sure Justin Shackle has done a very good job. Emmanuel Barberi, who is only 24 years old, he's been in there too. But everybody's going to be killing to get that job. Now, I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't know anything about this. I don't think they're going to hire just one guy. Sterling did all 9 innings, which most baseball announcers don't do. So once Michael Kay went to television, Sterling did basically all 9 innings.
That is very true. And the funny thing about after Michael Kay, it was Charlie Steiner. And of course, who got the game-winning call on the Boone home run was Charlie Steiner. And I often think Sterling was a bit upset at that, to be honest with you.
Well, that's just luck of the, they once you get to extra innings, you alternate innings, and that was just the way it fell. But I think the Yankees are going to hire 2 play-by-play announcers. One the lead guy, one is the second guy. And
I put my application in, then Louis. Let's do it. Let's go to the broadcast booth together.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of guys pining for that job. That's for sure.
And it's going to be, the Yanks do approve it. Some people have asked me, who was he hired by, the Yankees? And I always did believe it was George Steinbrenner's blessing that put him and Michael Kay together on the air.
Well, Michael Kay, and I knew Michael Kay because he used to cover the Nets when I was with the Nets for the Daily News. And so I knew him pretty well. And he's a good guy. And then all of a sudden, he leaves print journalism, which was a smart move, and becomes the play-by-play broadcaster for Yankee radio. And he does an excellent job.
And he continues to on Yes. So, by the way, happy birthday, John Filippelli, the architect, really, of Yes Network. And when you weren't listening to Sterling on radio, you might have seen him on a Yankeeography or Yankees Classics. I mean, John Filippelli's architecture of the Yes Network has made it stand for 22 years. We believe that, Lou. And SNY is going to be, in 2006 was their first year. So,
right. Time flies. It seems like it was just yesterday that these networks started.
I know. Well, and of course the MSG days were fun. And what I love about Yankee Classics real fast is they alter between the radio and the TV feed sometimes. So you can get both factors in there. Whereas the Mets ones are always Gary, Keith, and Ron. They seem to be on every broadcast. And
right.
That's just a lot of moving parts this week, Louis, I feel like, with our sports world this week.
No doubt about it. I agree. And this is a nice time of the year. We didn't talk much about baseball on the field, but again, a couple of weeks ago when the Mets were 0-5, everybody was getting ready to jump off the bridge. And this is not a great Mets team, but since 0-5, and I said everybody's overreacting, and they are. And they do, and we do that as fans. They're 10-13 since that time. They've won 10 out of 13. So, and they're over 500. Like I said, this is not a great Met team. But again, my point is, gotta love
Harrison Bader. He goes to do a public appearance the day of his first big hit on the Sunday, and then he gets continuing that vibe from the fans, I guess, and he kept hitting this week. So that's a major plus. I want to see the guy succeed. I loved him as a Yankee. I want to see him succeed in Met pinstripes now. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right, Lou. One last thing, and you were right. You were right off air. Caitlin Clark, despite getting a very, in my view, very, very putrid contract for $338,000, she should have started at $500,000 after the draft. But you were right. Endorsements are kicking in now for her from Nike. Did you hear about that?
Well, I mean, it's a minimum of $10 million that she's getting from Nike. And, going back to her contract, it's all because of the salary cap and the fact that the WNBA revenues don't match a $500,000 salary. She's worth $5 million to the WNBA. I mean, we'll see. I just look at Monday night. Monday night for the WNBA draft, they got just under 2.5 million people watching. Last year, they had 505,000 watching. And the thing is, she was picked at 805, 810, and really, most of the years, people wouldn't watch the rest of the draft. But they did. It's not like she was picked at 9:30. She 5 times the amount that normally watch the WNBA draft watched it on Monday night. She's going to be on national TV 36, and maybe they'll even add the last 4, 36 out of the 40 Indiana Fever game. These teams on the road are moving games to the bigger facilities, like the Las Vegas team is moving it from, I guess they play in a 10, 11,000 seat arena. They're moving it to the arena where the Vegas Golden Knights play, because the demand for when Caitlin Clark comes in is huge. And I don't know if her impact on the college game is going to translate to the WNBA, because there's more games. It's played in the summertime, where people have other things that they want to do, go to the beach, go on vacation. But I mean, anybody who's being critical of this kid, and I saw some things about some players in the league being critical, being jealous of her. Come on, man. That is weak. She is going to make money for every player in the WNBA. Every player. They should be kissing her feet. I mean, it's really disappointing when you see some of the shots she's taking from some of these morons.
And to that reporter in the Indianapolis Star, she's none of that. She's a person. So, I just, the things that these are saying about her, to her, I don't mean I'm sorry about Antonio Brown. What an a-hole he's becoming. His.
And like I said, some things that from the players that play in the league, shut the heck up. She's going to make you money. And remember, in the last collective bargaining agreement, salaries in the salary cap, salaries in the WNBA were raised 53%. Bring in more revenue, you'll get more money in the next collective bargaining agreement. And the person who's going to do that are people like Caitlin Clark. I mean,
I know that he doesn't. He's not in the Garden, but imagine they moved the Liberty to the Garden for just one of those games.
No, they can't. They can't do that, Alex. They can't do that. They can't do that. They got to play at Barclays. They can't. They play at the Liberty play at the Garden all those years, and Madison Square Garden did not want the Liberty in the Garden. That's why they moved them to Westchester. That will never happen. That never happened.
Well, I'm sure they didn't foresee this moment, so there's that going on too. Now,
well, the thing is, Alex, could the popularity of the WNBA down the road lead to a second team in New York? Then maybe the Garden might get back in the business. But I know a lot of guys at the Garden, and I'm going to tell you this, and this is right from the horse's mouth, that were hoping, this is going back 10, 12 years, who said to me, to my face, that WNBA is a waste of time and should be disbanded. And that's a fact. Now, they were wrong, and I thought they were wrong, and now look where the WNBA has a chance to become.
They just got to, treat their players properly is how I see it. And that means
you got to get more revenue. You got to bring more revenue. The reason that Damian Lillard is making $62 million this year, which is absolutely ridiculous, is going to make $62 million next year. Great player. Just think about that. $62 million is because the revenue stream in the NBA is ridiculously off the charts. And when they sign a new media rights deal with TBS, with ABC, they said that NBC might be back in the mix. There'll be a streaming partner, and the media rights are going to go to $75 million. The players are locked in; they're going to get a piece of that. There's going to be a player making $85 million a year, and we're not talking about LeBron James in his prime. We're going to talk about a guy who's a very, very good player, but not a Michael Jordan, LeBron James type of player. That's what
I know you've had your issues with the NBA cap, which we'll get to again down the road. But one last thing, I do believe Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I don't think Angel Reese had as much malice toward her. I think it was just a game day thing, and then off the court, I think they'll probably get along. That's just how I feel about it. That was
I have no idea if they like each other, hate each other. I have no idea, and that actually. Player rivalries are good. Bird Magic, Jordan and Isaiah. But again,
and Reese Clark can definitely be mentioned now. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see how it translates now that they're in the WNBA.
And you know what? I would say the way the media is going to be looked at is how they were looked at when we talked about them on Media Row about the Travis Kelce Taylor thing. I mean, these women are focused on the game, not some crapshoot that you want to ask them. That Travis is focusing on the game. He wasn't focused on Taylor in that regard. I mean, it's amazing the idiocy we get out of the media when these things happen, right?
Oh, 100%. You're 100% right. But again, the Taylor Kelce thing has been good for both of them. And I see where I guess it's going to be on Amazon that Travis Kelce is going to be a game show host. Oh my gosh!
I think he's doing the sixth grade, the Are You Smarter Than a Sixth Grader kind of show. I remember that with Jeff Foxworthy back in the day. So that'll be good. And Jason has personality. Travis, I think Jason has more of a personality than Travis, though. I gotta say, Jason is he's all over the place. But
so the talk show, the game show host is Travis, right? Not Jason.
Well, let me check here. I think it is. It's one of the Kelce's. I think you're right about that. I think it's Travis. So they would have made they were making a big deal because of that.
Right.
But,
I think I saw it was Travis, but
Jason's definitely got the personality of the two of them. I feel like because
he'll be on one of the shows, on one of the football pregame shows on ESPN. He'll be on one of those shoulder programming type shows.
And Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader is the show. So I can't wait to see that. Of course, he's been on SNL before. Travis Kelce was last year. So he's got personality too. And they were both raised right by their mom. I got to say that. They were both raised right. So it's interesting to see them succeed and thrive. And they're both Super Bowl champions. No one seems to remember that now.
And they're both going to be both going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Well, we all know when the Hall of Fame game halftime show is going to be at.
That's it. You got it.
All right, Lou. This has been fun, and we will do this again next week, but I want to catch you before the busy weekend hits. I know that Yankee fans are about $80 a ticket to go see the retirement tomorrow, so I know we'll be up there. I'm sure it's going to be a sold-out crowd nonetheless for them because people pay for that kind of thing. So it'll be fun. It'll be a busy weekend in New York, and the two teams. I mean, I love when the Rangers and Knicks are at home for the playoffs. It adds to the excitement of the city, I think. So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, the Rangers should get by this without too much difficulty. The Knicks, it's a 50-50 thing, but the Knicks it would be more disappointing than a failure. For the Rangers, anything short of the Eastern Conference Championship is a failure.
Well, on that note, Terminello's take for this week on April 19th. Thanks so much, Lou.
Alex, the great, always a pleasure. Thank you.